I own nothing but the opinions and vocals expressed herein. Castlevania is property of Konami. This series, produced by Frederator Studios, Powerhouse Animation Studios, Shankar Animation, Project 51 Productions, Moi Film. Please support the official release. We open on Ratko, forming the map with magic. It's a three-dimensional projection exploiting the stone that got stuck into Zemphyr's collar 2 episodes back. And seeing that it is working, Varney takes the opportunity to seize all credit for it on the grounds that he assented to it. Ratko turns around and details the lameness and worminess of Ratko's entire persona. When Varney counters by saying that he only needs Ratko because Ratko is so good at war and killing that it nourishes Varney, Ratko responds by detailing what war is. He makes no qualms about it, strips all pretense away, and is so ruthless, so murdery, and so efficient at destroying not only the other side's ability to fight, but also their will and incentive, that I'm reminded of the old stories of the bravery dances in North America. Warring tribal nations would open up with posturing and gestures of bravery and valor, courage and spirit, what have you, to some degree in the form of a dance. And when the cavalry came along, completely ignorant of this custom, they just saw men in the open moving up and down, but not left or right very much, and took aim and fired. The summary was called, and I quote, "Prancing and Dancing Indians," and when Ratko says war is not posturing on the field, or just standing pretty in a uniform, I'm reminded of that. He ends on, "I'm a f***ing vampire." Which reminds me of something else. The other Alucard's speech in the first episode of Hellsing, and later what bookends Sarah's Victorious arc in Team 4 Star's Hellsing Ultimate Abridged series. Makes me wonder how much trouble this series' Alucard would give that series' Alucard. But that's something for the people at Death Battle to do. On with the review. We jump to the city above, presumably before this little argument between vampires, and as Sypha demands to be shown the underground court, Zamfir insists that she was not listening. She stopped listening as soon as they started talking about what they wanted. And while she was waiting, she independently decided to show them the underground court. That Sypha has to be restrained is never a good sign. Now we jump away from that unpleasantness to a beautiful exterior shot of Castle Dracula. Then a beautiful pre-evening shot of the encampment. Then a beautiful interior shot of the castle. I bet Dracula was never counting on so many humans using it. Rather amusing in the irony. Speaking of amusing, we skip to Saint-Germain touring the grounds. Saint-Germain marks a very familiar symbol onto the wall after inserting a coin into the wall with the same symbol on it. This symbol is the same one used by the priests and the visitor in the previous season. We see him entering Alucard's old bedroom, and we recall that when he was conversing with Hector, he was told to look for the exact spot on the floor where Dracula died. They haven't changed the carpeting, apparently. That's a pretty clear X on the map. Saint-Germain then pulls out another transmission mirror. This one fits into a pocket watch, and it's not even the last one we're going to see this season. There are others waiting to be introduced. We then move to a gorgeous shot of Alucard and the castle exterior. Speaking of gorgeous, here's a close-up of the Dhampir, who then spots some children, flies down and says, "Boo!" Greta observes this and proceeds to discuss food, supplies, and defenses with him, drawing even more observations about him in the process. Alucard mentions the light will soon be lost, and it's time to work on the defenses. I doubt he realizes just how right he is. While inside the approaching wagons, a body's being Frankensteined together. I noticed, in more footage I can't show, a hand wearing a control ring identical to Hector's. Now he has just lost his. Makes me wonder where they got this one. And before we cut to Zamfir, I'd like to point out that Zamfir reminds me of Grant Dynasty from the third game, where the first two seasons got their cast and characters and storyline. From personally seeing Wallachia go through big changes through Dracula's actions, to themselves going through big changes through Dracula's actions. Zamfir losing her mind, Grant losing his body. They both have a thing for knives. They've led something that resists. And Grant might not be all there. He uses a boat as his wagon. So maybe they're both nuts. Or maybe it's just my imagination. So now we see Trevor and Sypha walking behind Zamfir, where I call shenanigans again. How did neither of them see the stone that was not there before? Zamfir has turned her back on them both repeatedly before and after the stone was put in her collar. and none of them spotted it. We remember Roger the Black. Even the password puts an emphasis on putting the past before all else. Trevor and Sypha appear less than impressed. This stunning goblet is but a trinket in this underground hall of madness. Just gonna leave Exhibit B here. Trevor spots something, goes after it. There has been a lot more item gathering this season. And then he seems to spot the Holy Cross. Mr. Belmont very quickly recognizes it as a weapon forged by the Rajputra clans of India. According to his memories of his mother's books, it's a one-of-a-kind item that a vampire hunter used to exploit a vampire's heightened predator senses. Even if they were Hindu vampires, the sun geometric shape up close would still induce panic. That's why it snaps back and forth. Which finally explains how one symbol would have a universal impact on vampires from anywhere on Earth. Looking at Sypha's expression, as more of Trevor's old knowledge comes back to him, she's certainly been a good influence. But recognizing what he's gained so quickly on his first visit, Trevor wants to know why the good stuff was not in use, and just being told that his betters wished it so only spurred him to confront them, much to Zamfir's distress. And we see how she broke. We see the added distress. Her broken brain insists these two are coming back as she chides Trevor for his behavior. Sypha insists that these corpses need to be laid to rest. Laid to rest, or mummified properly, or cremated, but something! Yeesh! Zamfir insists that even though they're nothing but bones, they're just resting, gathering their resources. They are magicians walking in the worlds beyond our imaginings, and they will save us. And that's why it's worth killing all the priests, stealing all the holy water, and keeping the lips of the inhabitants dry. Although, about the holy water, Ratko had speculated that they were using that to throw off the vampire's senses. So, she's not wrong, but she needs other water. She needs to bring down other water. There should have been other reserves of water. Sypha insists on confronting Zamfir's delusions and demanding that even though she's the last noble left alive, that she is the one who moved the treasures and the corpses, that she did everything she could for the royal family. There are other families who need her, and it's time to work towards the future. Zamfir knows she's nuts, but she can detail how she went nuts. She's not so crazy that she doesn't know she's crazy, but she's sane enough to know she has no business not being crazy. She describes that night when all came into motion, as the night the devil himself had punched the world. That she herself would only sleep for 2 hours at night before waking up screaming. And physically, yes, that does take a toll on the brain. So, it would be nuts not to go crazy. And as she prattles on about the great work, Trevor finds another piece to something he's assembling. Zamfir's mind struggles with the logic regarding duties to the living, when suddenly, here's Varney, led by Ratko, naturally. Now we cut away again. Last time I mentioned the calming beauty of Castle Carmilla at night as opposed to at day, but here at Castle Dracula, the night just has people on edge, while the day was hopeful and peaceful. But just as sleep and exhaustion start settling in, the loud noise of invasion stirs the scene. Our last shot of this episode is punctuated by the stomp of an elephant-sized foot. See you again.